Hello, guys. I hope you're having a really amazing day. And even if you're not, that's okay too. I'm out on a walk with Toby right now in the woods. And I wanted to talk to you about boundaries and just kind of a lot of the lessons I've been learning lately. I'm not really sure why I'm doing it as an audible or what this is really going to turn into, but we're going to give it a shot and a go. Um, so I invite you to come on a walk with me or go for a run. So Toby and I were running. Um, and I feel like there was a lot of lessons that really popped up even while I was running with him, just about how you can really embrace the unknown in life and keep moving forward to your dreams and your goals and everything that you're growing towards. And how do you embrace the hurdles? So we were running, and there was this part that, well, first, before we even got there, normally I get like really afraid in the woods to get lost because I don't know, I've always had this like weird fear of the woods. I have like a very deep love and a weird fear at the same time. And so I always kind of like to know where I'm going if I'm by myself. But today, for some reason, I just decided to follow my intuition and to allow myself to get lost by just kind of, you know, moving around and going in a direction and that my heart called. It's something I like to do every once in a while to really test. You never know where you're meant to end up, whether it is walking along a road or going running, or a journey in your life. We never know where we're meant to end up if we don't allow ourselves to follow the signs, to trust ourselves, our intuition, and to not resist so much. Because a lot of the times when we try to control the journey, it's just tough. If we try to control the journey, we cut off all of the beauty and the magic that is trying to unfold on its own. And that really takes, no matter what our goals are, it ends up taking us so much longer to get there because we're resisting along the way instead of, slowing down enough to tune into ourselves, into our hearts, and to just hear the guidance that's always around us. So I thought that was a really cool thing. One, it was really liberating and freeing to just get a little bit lost and allow my intuition to lead me. And then as soon as we got to like the parts on the trail that were a lot of rocks and downhill and a lot of tree stumps and roots and stuff, I had to really pay attention and completely be in the moment and to just be. And so I decided to, think about one of the goals that I have right now. And every time I was going down, it was like leaping through the challenges and the hurdles, because when we're going towards something in life, we just need to keep moving forward. It's like, we can't just think about the end destination. We have to pay attention to where we are right now and enjoy the journey and know that we're already there. I know that I'm so guilty of, like, when I was building Moon Sister Rising, the festival, or my coaching business, when I first became an entrepreneur, I always had this feeling in my mind where it was like, I'm not there yet. I'm not enough yet. And that, that end goal was, then I would be that. When I did the festival and it was successful, or when I had a certain amount of clients, or I made a certain financial goal, it was kind of like, that's when I'll be what I think I need to be. And that's bullshit, because that's not how it works. And that's been a big lesson that I've learned in the past, is to really love yourself right now and just kind of embody who you want to be, but enjoy your life along the way. Enjoy the adventure, because when you're enjoying things and when you're loving where you are and you're proud of who you are and what you're doing right now, that's when the most magic takes place. That's when you're having fun and things are growing faster because you're already embodying those goals. And it's super, super important to love yourself right now. But I got a little sidetracked. So I was going down this like rocky part and just, thinking about my future goal and all the hurdles that might pop up, or the fears that have been coming up for me. And I was just kind of like picturing myself leaping past those hurdles and like staying completely in the moment and trusting my instincts and not letting fear creep in, because if fear creeps in, that's when I'll fall. And it's okay to fall, because when we fall, we just have to get back up. Our journeys they're not meant to be this always happen like a lightning strike. Sometimes our journeys, are more of perseverance and just allowing the lessons to unfold as we go, as opposed to just like happening overnight. For example, I did a workshop where I had, it was called the Magic Money Adventure, and it was a program I was putting on. And I didn't end up getting enough signups that I was originally thinking of. And so I ended up changing it into something else. And at first, I was actually, I was supposed to be getting my period, and I had these horrible, horrible pains in my stomach. And when I was doing, I did this really awesome session with a shaman, and she was doing work on my body. And at one point, she got to my stomach, and I was so deep in the meditation that I actually felt like my belly was pregnant. And I think that when we have big projects inside of us, it really can feel like we're carrying a project, or we're birthing or mothering something. And this project for me was something that after a very busy summer and feeling incredibly exhausted to the point where, like I had nothing left to give, I took a few weeks and just completely, which felt like spiritual therapy, just like completely tuned out, and just like went inward and slowed down and did nothing, didn't really work, didn't do anything for a few weeks. And this beautiful project, the Magic Money Adventure, had kind of like come to me. It was something that I felt like it was almost like, you start to birth something and to carry it inside of you, because it's meant to be shared with the world. And so I was in this session, and I was having a lot of issues with the project coming to life. And so I'm in this session, and normally I get my period around the new moon. And so the date that the project was going to be starting and taking off was actually supposed to be that weekend. We had made a lot of changes, and it wasn't actually going to be that weekend. So I wasn't afraid of something failing or not happening or going right. And I woke up this one morning, and I just had the most insane pains. I was on the floor, completely naked, in like cold sweats and like screaming pain, to the point that I thought that like I needed to go to the hospital. And I knew that I didn't. I just had this weird feeling in me that that I was kind of like miscarrying this project, and that it was just completely releasing out of me, and the pain was so intense. And I just called in on my tools, and I was breathing through the entire experience, just kind of like deep breathing and knowing that, the pain will pass, and I just have to be present and ride the wave of it. And that's like anything in life, any challenges we're going through. It's like we just need to be present and move through, walk through it, go through that process, because, the only way out is through. And so I was really present with myself. And then I did end up getting my period. And it was, I just feel like this thing crazy. I just had this intuitive knowing that, that project wasn't coming to life. And that was kind of like that, like miscarried itself. And so when we have things that fail, I know for a really long time, I just kind of was like, oh my God, something I'd put so much time and love into, it didn't come to life. And then a couple of weeks later, maybe like a month later, I don't remember exactly how long, but I was planting these seed kits with Tim, and on the directions, it said if some of the seeds don't bloom, to just plant them again next year, because they're not all meant to bloom right away. And that was what the directions had said on it. And I thought, how much is that like us? We're not supposed to always bloom. Not everything is supposed to come to life, or not everything is supposed to come to life right away. Sometimes I've had projects and experiences where things came to life in like a lightning struck, and it's like pure magic. And then other times, something failed, but then it turned into something else, and then it unfolded into something else, and now it's unfolding into yet again something else. So sometimes we just have to trust our path, is kind of what I think, just trusting the journey and allowing it to unfold exactly as it wants to. And then, and trusting that things don't always happen on our timelines. We get this idea or this goal, you want to have a relationship, or there's a project that you want to come to life, and you have this whole plan. This is where kind of the problem with control comes in. You get this whole plan of what you want to do, and then the timing of how that is actually unfolding isn't anything like you kind of expected it to be. And so you have these expectations, and they really cut you off from the magic of just because instead then when it doesn't work out, you'll end up getting super upset, instead of just trusting the process, trusting yourself, and knowing that not all things are meant to bloom, and that things happen in their own time. And when they happen that way, they're way more magical and way wilder than, we could have ever dreamt up before. So trusting the journey is a big piece of it. But that wasn't really what my lesson was this past week. And we just had the full moon in Scorpio, and it was a really, really intense moon, I think, because I've been spending so much time with myself and reflecting, like I know we all have right now with everything going on. We've got so much time to be with ourselves that all of our shadows, that work really starts to come up. But at the same time, we're also that much more in tune with the moon and, nature's natural cycle. And so things might be affecting us and feeling those effects and more aware of those effects more than we normally are. And so this past full moon, I am a Scorpio as well. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it was a really tough experience for me. I was just, for at least a straight week, I kind of felt this wall of energy that kept just blocking me. And it was like I kept fighting and trying to resist it and move past it, but I felt so fidgety and anxious for a week and couldn't sleep. And it was just, I had to surrender and ride the wave until I really was getting hit with so many challenges and so many tests of holding my boundaries. I've always really, ever since I was little, struggled with self-confidence, feeling like nobody understood me, nobody cares what I have to say. I'm never good enough, and struggling with my value, my own self-worth. And I think this comes from when I was a little girl. I was so incredibly in tuned to spirituality, and a lot of people didn't understand me. A lot of, my friends were totally different than I was, and as a result kind of would call me weird. I remember when I was a little girl, having such deep spiritual experiences of running away into the woods and finding this place that looked like it was almost like the veil had been lifted, and I could see beyond the five senses, and there's just this magical looking world that reminded me of Candyland. And now all I have left is this kind of this vision and this energy of what it was like. That's really hard to put into words, but one of those experiences that never leaves you, and you don't fully understand it or know why or what it was, and will probably never know, but you just know it was a little bit of a deeper spiritual experience to something else. Or I used to every single day see this man in the backyard, and my grandmother I'd be like, Nana, Nana, the man's back, the man's back. And so my grandmother would come to the window and she'd be like, Krista, nobody's there. No one's there. And every single day, I'd be like, Nana, Nana, the man's back. And every day, she'd call my mom on the phone. She'd be like, Teresa, she says she sees this man and nobody's there. I don't know. And, it's experiences like that I can, as clear as day, my mom would be like, maybe it was a bear. But like every single day, I guess this bear came back. I don't know. And it's experiences like that I can still see clear as day, like the vision of it. But anyway, so I always felt like a little bit different and not as easy to understand. And that was kind of really the majority of my life. I had an amazing life, a lot of friends, but I never fully felt like people always understood me. And it wasn't until I found yoga and really started to meditate and learn more about myself and who I am and my needs and just who I am authentically, and started to be that person more, that really everything started to shift and open up. And so I've been struggling with self-confidence more lately, and not so much struggling in a way that's negative, but more of a way of I'm leaving this old story behind. I'm growing. I can't hold on to it any longer. And that's what happens in life to us, right? Like for a long time, I was an anxious person. And of course I still get anxiety today, but it's different than then. That used to be my identity, and it really controlled my life, and it was debilitating. Whereas now, I use my tools and I'm able to manage it and move through it and use it to my advantage in a sense of growth. And the obstacles really do become these beautiful gifts. So right now, I'm really working on leaving this old story behind. And there's people walking by. And then I lose my train of thought. So I'm really working on leaving this old story behind and stepping into this higher version of me for this project that I'm working on birthing, which I will be sharing with you so soon, and I am really excited to share it with you because it was actually my first vision of when I wanted to become an entrepreneur that I ever wanted to do. And I think I've sat on this for so many years out of fear or not knowing how, or just wasn't the right time. But anyways, now is the time. And I need to learn this lesson and release this old identity so that I can be a container to hold what's rising in me now and to be able to share all of that with you. So I've been getting all these lessons coming in, and some of the biggest lessons I think that I've learned and from these tests are, one, I've always been such a huge people pleaser. Always so worried about what other people think, to the point where I don't trust myself anymore. And I, go against my own intuition. And I think about now, like, what is that doing to me on a vibrational level internally, that I'm doubting myself so much out of fear that other people don't like me or don't understand me, which in, so many of the cases, that's not even what's happening. It's just a story that's playing out in my mind that, my emotions and my cells and my body is just constantly trying to feed, and I don't even realize it until I start to bring this awareness. But this has shown up in so many ways. It shows up where I'm trying to please someone and I just swallow my voice and I don't express who I am, and I don't allow myself the permission to fully be me anymore because I'm too afraid. And then it'll show up in ways where I'll think I'm a horrible person, or I self-doubt myself and be like, oh no, did I do something, over and over in my mind. And it's only because, someone else's opinion or what I'm assuming their opinion is. And I, you never really know what is causing someone else to think something. And so that will affect how I feel about myself. And that kind of lives in my body, or all of our bodies, if that happens to you, like a trauma. And it adds up and adds up and adds up until we allow ourselves the awareness and the decluttering of it, so that we can move forward. But So it shows up that way. And it also shows in this way where I just give and give and give. And I think I have to give more to be able to please, because I'm afraid someone will get mad at me or not like what I have to say. And, I create this whole story in my mind. And it kind of leaves, if you think about it, this internal voice saying, what I need doesn't matter. And just need to give and give and give. And I am just so done with that and done with that and done, thinking that what I need doesn't matter. I'm done thinking that, I have to exhaust myself to give because I just care so much. And, there's only so much of me. And, the majority of the time, what's even going to happen is that people just completely understand you. They're not mad at you. All the whole story that you just told yourself in your head, it's not even true. People understand, when you're just real and authentic and upfront with, what you need and your values. And it creates more of this sense of respect from people, because when you don't value yourself, people aren't going to value you. So you have to own that. You have to kind of, no matter how scary it can be sometimes, to kind of own whatever your boundaries are. You have to own that without fear, because in the long run, people respect you more. They appreciate you more. They don't, they don't dislike you. They love you for it. You also, create that space for other people to hold their own boundaries. And when I talk about boundaries, there's so many different ways that this can pop up. It can pop up in family, in relationships, boundaries with friends, boundaries at your job. I remember, when I was working in New York, I was just constantly, I would work sometimes till 2:00 in the morning and then have to commute home to New Jersey. The boundaries were just always completely obliterated. And then finally, when I started to do the work to change my life, leave New York, start my own job, my own career. And I set boundaries for myself. I was on the 5:00 boat every single day. And it was the best thing I could have done for myself, because I got my energy back. I got me back. And in turn, I was able to give more the way that I'm meant to give in this world, as opposed to just being constantly drained. So there's so many different ways. If you have your own business, boundaries with your pricing, with your time. There's so many different ways that boundaries can show up in your life. And so when I was going through this, and I encourage you to do this as well, I sat down and I would meditate, and I realized, I don't even know what my boundaries are. And actually, fast forward maybe a day before that, I was talking to Nadia about everything that was going on. And I said to her, I don't know what my boundaries are. And then right after, I literally blurted out every single one of my boundaries. And she was like, "Are you kidding me? You just said you don't know what your boundaries are, and now you just completely blurted them out to me." But I was too afraid. I was too afraid to trust myself. I thought that, I was wrong, because self-doubt and confidence, and I've struggled with all of that for so long that I didn't know how to trust my own feelings, my own thoughts. And so then I'm meditating, and I was like, all right, still giving myself that self-doubt, being like, I don't know where my boundaries are. So I started to meditate on, what are my boundaries? And what was, interesting is, because if we're going to set our boundaries, we have to have them laid out of what they are. And so what was interesting was, after I set my boundaries, I realized the self-doubt creeped in. Am I worth that? Am I worth that? Am I worth that? Do I believe in myself enough? Do I trust myself and my intuition enough? Do I value myself enough to believe I'm worth whatever these boundaries are? Or do I feel like I need to give because I'm not worth it? Whatever it is. This can show up in so many different ways. And I had to say fuck yes, I'm worth it. Fuck yes, I am. Of course I am. And of course you are. And so the first step is getting clear on your boundaries, but then start to ask yourself, what are those root things that pop up? What is it that is laying under the root? What's causing you to have that lack in confidence? What's causing you to not think that you're worth it, or to question your boundaries, or to not trust yourself? Maybe you're not spending enough time in meditation or tuning in whatever way that speaks to you, right? Maybe it's not sitting down and quieting your mind. Maybe meditation for you is going out in the ocean, or going for a run, or cooking in the kitchen. What are the ways that you start to quiet down the noise and zone into the moment? And this doesn't necessarily mean, quieting your mind. Like, I feel like a lot of people have this misconception of meditation, where meditation has to be you in like silence, like this Buddha and enlightenment, and that's bullshit, at least in my opinion. There are sometimes I'll spend a half hour, an hour in meditation, and my mind is like chattering, going crazy. And that's like, I'm just tuning in, I'm just checking, and I'm learning what is going on inside. Where is this coming from? Like, what is the root, and how can I let it go? And that's really what it's all about. So, I started to ask myself this question of like, okay, do I value that? And then I had to dig deeper. Well, why wouldn't you value it? And then you just keep asking more and more. Why? Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And you just dig deeper and deeper, and then you listen, because your intuition, yourself, will answer you. And you will hear the answers because you already know them. Because just because you forget your own power, just because you forget, what you think or how to trust yourself, intuitively, that never goes away. That wisdom always lives inside of you. It's just how many layers are on top of it. Like, how many layers do you need to peel off in order to uncover that truth and that wisdom inside of you? And that's why meditation, in whatever form, is so incredibly important. That's why following your heart and the things that light you up and strengthening your intuition muscle are so important, because that's when you have the guidance. And that guidance is everything. That guidance is that connection with Mother Nature. It's your connection to yourself, and it's your roadmap of how to live your best life. And so you really, in my opinion, need to own your boundaries. I need to own my boundaries. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought because I have to pee so badly, and now I've been lost for like 2 hours in the woods, like really, really lost. And I'm not sure how far from home I'm walking away. So anyways, following your boundaries is just really what I wanted to share with you. And give yourself the damn permission to be you. Give yourself that fucking permission. Just be you. Don't be afraid to shine, to show yourself to the world, to say what's on your mind, to express your voice, to wear or be whoever you want to be. It is the most liberating and freeing thing that you can do for yourself, is to just be you unapologetically. And so I hope you have an amazing day. I'm going to find my way out of the woods, because I don't really know where I am anymore, and I think I might be pretty far from home. So I'm going to find my way out of the woods, but I hope you enjoy the rest of your run, the rest of your walk. I hope you're not as lost as I am. And it's okay. Me and Toby are really getting a workout today. He's running with me. And I love you so much. And I can't wait to share all the awesome things that are coming up. I'll be sharing that with you within a couple of weeks. Just know it's going to be very freeing, and really excited about it. And I love you. Have a kick-ass day. And light that heart up. Bye.